Yan. Hi class, good day. Magandang araw sa inyong lahat and welcome to our basically first sync class. I decided to record myself na lang because I think I mentioned na this week I'll be traveling to Palawan for work. So I'm not sure kung may maayos na signal by Thursday. So para lang ma-ensure natin na maayos yung discussion natin, maayos yung lecture ko, ay ito, I'm recording it and you can watch it. So some reminders siguro, no? During the course of this discussion, if you have questions, if you have clarifications, you can either comment down dito sa discussion board natin or you can send me an email. Meron din tayong activity at the start and at the end. So, yung gagawin nyo, just comment your answers sa discussion natin so I can read, di ba? And maybe I can respond or react to your thoughts. Okay? So, let's start. Now, today, we'll be discussing about an introduction to sustainable development and ecological economics. So I hope you've read the required and suggested readings in our Canvas page, and you already have an idea on what is sustainable development, what is ecological economics, and hopefully you saw the rationale for choosing ecological economics as the main framework of analysis for this class. So siguro first, let's start with an activity. So I will pose some questions here. Itong would you rather. Alisin ko na lang din yung mukha ko dyan sa slide. Yeah. So itong would you rather, I'm sure you've played it before COVID, pre-pandemic. So pili lang kayo between the two. So may choice tayo. And then answer dun sa ating discussion board kung ano yung napili ninyo. And we're open, non-judgmental tayo dito. So wag kayong I mean, you can change your answers, but I hope you stick with your first choice. And let's see kung ano yung mga choices natin and how it relates to sustainable development and ecological economics. So let's start. So yung first question natin, would you rather give up beef or give up showering? So, willing ba kayo mag-give up ng karne ng baka? Or willing kayo mag-give up mag-shower? So, the next question. So, would you give up all paper products or would you rather become a vegetarian? Okay. Yung susunod natin. Would you rather bike in the rain to work or cut out dairy? Ito. Would you rather use plastic bags or canvas bags? And then yung last, would you rather explore the space or explore the oceans? So again, comment down your answers below. And let's see kung ano yung mga choices natin. So simulan natin dito sa una, would you rather give up beef or give up showering? So, as you know, the consumption of animal products contributes to more than one quarter or 25% ng water footprint ng humanity. And yung sa US, yung data sa US, it says that we need 12,000 liters of water to produce just 1 kilogram of beef, compared to around 500 liters to grow a kilogram of corn. So halos, di ba, i-compute natin kung ilang litrong tubig yung ginagamit natin to shower. Or ito, yung sa beef, 1 kilo of beef is 12,000 liters of water. So yan, no? Yun yung isa sa mga reality. Yung pangalawa, would you rather give up paper products or become a vegetarian? So ito mahirap din, no? So yung National Geographic, nag-report sila na yung deforestation could make the world's rainforests disappear within 100 years. So we have to find the best solution before the trees are gone. So yung pinakamalaking force behind deforestation is actually animal agriculture and not paper products. Inisip natin, ay, of course, it's important to really save paper, no? But when you look at the data, no, yung animal agriculture, it is estimated to be the direct cause of 80% of the world's deforestation problem. So entire forests are cleared to make room for livestock, used for meat and dairy, and even more is cleared to make room to grow feed for this livestock. So hindi lang yung pag-grow doon sa livestock, kundi pati na rin yung pag-grow ng mga kinakain ng mga livestock natin. So it's a nice gesture to really buy recycled paper products to reduce waste and save trees. But it is also maybe even bigger gesture to eliminate your support of the world's biggest driver of deforestation. And, di ba, I am really sure, for me personally, it's hard to give up, di ba, beef or become vegetarian because of our lifestyle, because of our choices. But again, siguro pa konti-konti, we can do that. Next, diba? Bike in the rain or cut out dairy. So the same, you know, the United Nations has reported that from 2006 to 2011, cattle are the biggest source of carbon dioxide emissions, completely dwarfing all forms of transportation combined. And yes, even air transportation. So even if you choose to never fly to another country again or swore off even stepping foot in a car, when you're drinking dairy, your carbon footprint is skyrocketing higher than ever before. So your neighbor who owns a Hummer and eats a plant-based diet produces fewer carbon dioxide emissions than you, who do your weekly trips to Dairy Queen or your all-frozen yogurt diet. And then ito yung next, di ba? Plastic bags versus canvas bags. Kasi lately, I'm sure you will see ito yung isa sa mga debates on sustainable development or sustainability, because what we see na ang daming plastic marine litter sa oceans natin at maraming namamatay na mga life on water because of that. But di ba, meron ding challenge to that, because some say that plastic bags are better for the environment than organic cotton tote bags. Kasi kapag pinag-aralan natin yung entire life cycle sa paggawa, paggamit, pagtapon, pag-decompose ng plastic, ng recycled plastic, ng cotton bags, ng canvas bags, diba? Yung cotton bags fare the worst because they need to be reused thousands of times to have the same environmental footprint as a lightweight plastic bag. So ibig sabihin, no, yung cotton bag na minsan maganda yung design, di ba? Napaka very much woke cotton bag yung gamit niya, but you have to ensure that you use it thousands of times to ensure na yung environmental footprint niya nasulit compared sa paggamit nung isang beses mo na recycled plastic bag. So that's because cotton requires lots of land, water, and fertilizers to grow. Then it needs to be harvested, processed, and brought to the market. Of course, di ba? Ganyan din naman yung pag-ano nung sa recycled plastic. But again, no, when you compute the entire life cycle, yung input-output analysis nung mga materials na ginamit, makikita natin yung environmental footprint, yung impact ng cotton. So cotton is a very thirsty crop, sabi ng isang study. So one study done by the Australian government in 2007 found that plastic bags also have a lower carbon footprint than paper bags. So even yung mga paper bags na ginagamit na ngayon sa supermarkets, no? Making paper from trees sends a lot of waste to the landfill. So in comparison, petroleum is generally considered so valuable that there's very little waste. So yung pag-transport din ng 1,000 plastic bags across the country with a truck consumes much more fuel than transporting 1,000 thin plastic bags. So at the end of the day, it's all a matter of what you care about the most. So I think it's your choice, diba? If marine litter is your biggest concern, if you are an advocate of wildlife in the oceans, ayaw nyo na may namamatay ng mga turtles, namamatay ng mga whales because of plastic waste, and then you push for your advocacy. And then some other people think na they would want to contribute less carbon footprint, and that's fine too. So it depends on your passion. What's your biggest concern? So what you should do if you want to limit your environmental footprint, many experts say na yung paggamit ng reusable plastic bags, whether made of recycled plastic, nylon, or anything is best. So you can use them hundreds of times, diba? Whatever the grocery bag of your choice, try to reuse it as many times as possible, even if it's a single-use plastic bag. And then yung last question natin, would you explore the space or explore the ocean? So again, this highlights, diba? It depends on your advocacy. What's your dream before when you were a kid, diba? Go to space, go to the moon, diba? And some billionaires, actually last year, I saw some news, I'm sure you've encountered the news, no? They toured space. So yun yung isa sa mga possibility. Maybe finding another option, diba? For Earth in case talagang no point of no return na. And then yung iba naman, they want to explore the ocean because some say that we have explored the moon more than our oceans. Hindi pa natin alam kung ano talaga yung nasa pinakailalim ng ating mga karagatan. And maybe there's something there, there's some answers to our problems, we don't know. And people are trying to explore the ocean. So again, it depends on your passion and your advocacies. So yun, again, it's all about choices. Kasi ang sustainable development, di ba? Hindi siya black and white. Akala natin okay gumamit ng canvas bags compared to plastics, but when you look at science, di ba? It says a different thing. So that is also so that is, diba, the debate on sustainable development. So sustainable development, ano ba yung lifestyle na dapat kong gawin para ma-ensure na ako, yung pamilya ko, at yung mga susunod pa na generation ay makasurvive, makathrive happily, comfortably, without the danger, without the threat of extinction. And malaking bahagi sa sustainable development ay itong economics, di ba? That's why this class is parang economics, society, and sustainable development. So economics basically I think ang pinaka gusto kong simpleng definition is that it is the study of scarcity and choice, di ba? We have limited resources in the world, and how do you allocate these resources given the scarcity, given the limitations? And a while ago, during the activity, you made your choice based on the scarcity of the resources, of the decisions, of the options. Some of you chose based on passion, probably based on studies, based on what they read on articles, on journals, on research, diba? So how do we decide as a people, as a family, as a community, as an individual, which choices to take so we can move forward towards sustainable development? So this course, itong SocSc13, this class is about that. And isa sa pinakagasgas na word since maybe a decade, 2 decades is the word sustainable development, diba? And most people use the phrase sustainable development interchangeably. Try natin magpakita. Yan. Okay. So most people use the phrase sustainable development interchangeably with ecologically sustainable or environmentally sound development. So marami sa atin, depende, di ba? Sustainability, sustainable development, social development, ano pa? Inclusive development, ang dami-daming development, di ba? And as you can see dito sa screen, di ba? Yung sustainable development, hinati siya, di ba? Two words, sustainable, sustainability, and development. And when we talk about sustainability, we talk about yung literal definition niya, it means sustaining anything. Yung ecological definition niya, sustaining ecological basis of human life. And yung social, sustaining social basis of human life. And then for development, you can see that development is a process. Diba? Development has objectives, reach the basic needs of the people. So kapag pinagsama mo itong sustainable development, diba? You can say that sustainable development is sustaining growth, diba? Or sustaining or achieving traditional objectives plus ecological and social sustainability. So that is yung semantics ng sustainable development, and you can write a full paper, diba, about that semantics. So in contrast, diba, ito nga, sustainable development, ang sabi, it can be sustained growth, sustained change, or simply successful development. And when we talk about sustainability, diba, we say ito yung existence ng ecological conditions necessary to support human life at a specified level of well-being through future generations. So itong sustainable development na ito, diba, it doesn't just consider the ecological condition, no? It's a big part, diba? Because we cannot really thrive, survive without the environment. But we also have to consider, diba, yung social and economic aspect of sustainable development. So one example would be yung soil erosion, diba? Soil erosion undermines the agricultural basis for human society. So that is a case of ecological unsustainability, diba? Pwedeng cause siya ng farming on marginal lands without adequate soil conversion measures. So that is the ecological cause. But yung phenomenon ng marginalization of peasants may have social roots, diba? Which would then be the social causes of ecological unsustainability. And maybe closer to us because we are an archipelago, diba? Yung paggamit ng dynamite fishing or yung paggamit ng unsustainable ways of fishing in our oceans. Of course, diba? Ecologically, it is unsustainable. But when you look at the system, the structures, diba? And even if you say that fishermen, farmers have a choice, at the end of the day, diba? We don't know, diba? Kasi the reality is many of our people are forced to do. Kasi I think, personally, I think, and probably ito ay nakaugat din sa paniniwalang we are innately good, di ba? If people are given a choice to do something good versus doing something bad, but if you're in the right mind, I think people will choose to do good. So yun, yun yung debate, or how do you balance the social, the ecological or environmental, and the economic aspect of sustainability or sustainable development. So what we'll be using in this class and during our conversation last week, diba? Some of you already shared about sustainable development, their definition of sustainable development. So the definition that we're using is the one popularized in 1987 by the World Commission on Environment and Development, when it defined sustainable development as development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the needs of future generations to meet their own needs. So that the history, I'm sure it's in the Canvas. I made a Canvas discussion or page on that. So the history of the World Commission on Environment and Development is when a group of 22 people commissioned by the United Nations led the publication of the report, Our Common Future. So it's more commonly known as the Brundtland Report after its chair, Dr. Gro Harlem Brundtland. So this definition of sustainable development has become the most widely used definition and paved the way for governments and organizations to build upon their own understanding and framework for sustainable development. So again, this is the definition that we will be using, or we will be referring many of the times. But again, you can create, based on your own studies, definition, what is sustainable development? Maybe that's a question for the final exams. So again, sustainable development is a development that meets the needs of the present without compromising the needs of future generation to meet their own needs. So for me, that definition is, parang there is a call to be generous, to think of the future. Kasi yung reality, the effects of climate change, yung mga malalang effect niya, it will come maybe 50 years from now. So siguro tayo mga matatanda na. So ang concern natin ay yung future generations. But again, another reality is that for many countries, maybe the climate emergency is too far away. But for countries like the Philippines, where we experience stronger and stronger typhoons, the climate emergency is here already. So why sustainable development? So The global ecosystem, which is the source of all the resources needed for the economic subsystem, is finite and has limited regenerative and assimilative capacities. I think one of the most important things to consider, one of the most important things to consider when we talk about the economy, when we talk about sustainable development, is the reality that resources are limited, diba? Resources are scarce, and much more, diba? These resources, the allocation is inequitable. So that is one of the biggest realities that we have to consider when we talk about sustainable development. And even, diba, if we have lots of resources or things like that, like first world countries, the economic subsystem has already reached or exceeded many of the planetary boundaries. And itong mga ito, the five, di ba? Human biomass appropriation, climate change, ozone rupture, land degradation, and biodiversity loss. Lahat ng yan ay andun sa reading. So you can read on that and hopefully, no, I really hope that walang denier sa atin na the the earth is burning in front of us. It's a reality. The scientific community is in consensus about it. So other evidences of reaching planetary boundaries limits: ocean acidification, freshwater use, nitrogen and phosphorus cycles, atmospheric aerosol loading, chemical pollution, and all of those, diba? Things that's happening. And then, yung kanina diniscuss natin that resources are limited. These are scarce resources, and we are damaging these resources. And then the other reality is there is poverty and word inequality. So direct poverty alleviation is essential. So business as usual on poverty alleviation is irresponsible. So that is the challenge on how to achieve development. And as you go on this course, and maybe you've noticed from other classes, you've learned from other classes, diba? The industrial growth, the industrial revolution that propelled first world countries to their status right now, it is the main cause, diba? Kalakihan ng cause natin, makikita niyo sa mga graphs that I will share in future sessions, in future Canvas modules, diba? Ay doon nang galing sa Industrial Revolution. And industrial countries overconsume per capita, and consequently they overpollute, and so are responsible for the largest share of our approach to the limits. So the world's richest 20% have a personal consumption rate of more than 76%, while the world's poorest 20% consume only about 1.5%. So I think ito yung tinatawag nating climate injustice, di ba? When first world countries, when developed countries call for everyone, for me, to be more conscious of their choices, diba? I find it really hypocritical because they have the mechanism, they have the agency to choose, because they are reaping the benefits of exploiting resources, of using all the carbon dioxide, of emitting all the carbon dioxide. But for developing countries like the Philippines, diba? What are our choices, diba? So, yun yung isa. That's why if you've read the news about the climate negotiations, poor countries, diba? Or developing countries are really saying na dapat rich countries should take more responsibility for the mess that we are in right now. So developing countries contribute to exceeding limits due to their increasing population size and because their populations are increasing faster than their economies can provide for them. For example, China and India, such a dramatic increase in consumption rate in the two countries that have almost 40% of the world's population combined creates a situation that is unsustainable and potentially disastrous to the health of the global environment. So China and India's economies, for example, have grown drastically since 1950. So increasing 15 and 4.8 times per capita between 1950 and 2008. So the poor, because of that, the poor will justifiably demand and must be assisted in reaching at least minimally acceptable material living standards through access to the remaining natural resource base. So again, no, how do you justify that? Of course, the poor countries need to exploit the resources. The poor countries need to emit carbon dioxide so they can be industrialized, so they can be developed. And on the other hand, we cannot really let that happen fully because kailangan nating ma-ensure, di ba, na less than 2 degrees yung warming natin. So that is a big dilemma. And for me, it's really hard, di ba, choosing how do you approach that kind of situation. But then, di ba, countries like the US, di ba, like many of the European countries are calling for limiting the growth of China, of India, and the developing countries, that I find it really hard to accept. So hopefully, no, together with the class, we can learn how to decide on this kind of stuff. To make sure, no, that growth is inclusive, development is inclusive, is sustainable, and equitable. So there are differing views on responses to the limits. So ang sabi ni McNeil, a minimum of 3% annual per capita income growth is needed to reach sustainability during the first part of the next century. So that was 1989. So 2000 dapat 3% annual per capita income growth, di ba? For sustainability, what we need is an increase in national income. Sabi nung 1990 ni Huting. But, di ba, yung sa Brundtland report din ang sinabi, necessary conditions for sustainability. How do you do this? Producing more with less, reducing the population explosion, redistribution from over-consumers to the poor, and transition from focusing on the scale of the economy and input growth to qualitative development. So the dilemma is, di ba, the poor need an irreducible minimum of basics. So ang minimum natin, food, clothing, shelter, security, and other stuff na basic, di ba? And yung isang, I don't know kung mapapanindigan to, di ba? No further production growth in rich countries. That is really, really radical. And I think hindi kayang panindigan ng rich countries na mag-stop yung production growth, diba? So that people from poor countries, diba, can use the remaining, diba, carbon dioxide emission that we can have. So, you know, sustainability will be achieved only to the extent quantitative throughput growth stabilizes and is replaced by qualitative development, holding inputs constant or even reducing them. So Yung quantity kasi yung economy natin is all based on quantity, 'di ba? The scale of the economy. But the call is really, 'di ba? It should be replaced by qualitative development, 'di ba? And we have many indicators for that. We will learn about the parameters I think next module, 'di ba? And when we say that a better economy or a stronger economy, di ba? A developing economy is one that is getting better, di ba? Not necessarily bigger, so that the well-being of the population improves. And I think, no, I've shared a video on this sa yung hamster, impossible hamster. So ganun, no? We all thought that the economy will grow and grow and grow unlimitedly, exponentially, but the reality is hindi. So what we want to achieve is an economy that is getting better, not bigger. Um, we do not want an economy growing, mainly getting bigger, exceeding the limits and damaging the self-repairing capacity of the planet. So yun yung dilemma. When we respond to the limits, how do we develop as a country, 'di ba? Yung basic requirement, 'di ba, of growth for poor countries should be compensated by reduction in such growth in rich countries. Nagets niyo ba? So dahil required mag-grow pa yung mga developing countries so that people can have access to the basic needs, it should be compensated by a reduction in growth by rich countries. It's so easy to say it, but in terms of implementing, in terms of making rich countries understand or act, it's a different story. So apart from colonial resource drawdowns, industrial country growth has historically increased markets for developing countries' raw materials, hence benefiting poor countries. So yun yung sinasabi, no further production growth in rich countries. All approaches to sustainability must internalize this constraint. If the crucial goals of poverty alleviation and if halting damage to global life support systems are to be approached. So the hard road of sustainability. So presumably this is what the Brundtland Commission and subsequent follow-up authors label growth, but of a different kind. Diba? We must shift rapidly to a form of production that is less throughput intensive. We must accelerate technical improvement in resource productivity and conservation and efficiency improvements and recycling can be made profitable. The instant environmental externalities are internalized. But this approach, diba, although necessary, will be insufficient because the inescapable laws of thermodynamics, which state that all material growth consumes resources and produces waste, diba? Even if Brundtland and specified new type of growth, yung ambiguous growth na produce more with less. How? So first, to the extent that we have reached the ecosystem's regenerative and assimilative capacity limits, throughput growth exceeding such limits will not herald sustainability. Second, the size of the service sector relative to the production of goods has limits. Third, many services fairly throughput intensive such as tourism, higher education, healthcare. Fourth, less throughput intensive growth is high-tech. And then we say produce more with less. So we need technology for that. But this means that developing countries where growth is needed most are least likely to be able to afford Brundtland's new growth because we don't have the means, the capacity, diba? To get those technology or to even develop our own technology for that. So we want to move towards sustainable development through, diba? Ecological economics. So ecological economics is a transdisciplinary and interdisciplinary field of study that addresses the relationship between economic system and ecosystem in its broadest sense. So the human economy is embedded in nature. So ito yung um, mga main ano niya, paano ba, features ng ecological economics. The first is the reality, the consideration that human economy is embedded in nature and economic processes are actually biological, physical, and chemical processes and transformation. The second one, ecological economics is a meeting place for researchers and committed to environmental issues. And the third one, ecological economics requires transdisciplinary work to describe economic processes in relation to physical reality. So these relationships are central to many of humanity's current problems and to building a sustainable future, diba? But are not covered by any existing scientific discipline. So when we say transdisciplinary, we mean that ecological economics goes beyond our normal conceptions of scientific disciplines and tries to integrate and synthesize many different disciplinary perspectives. So it's possible that ecological economics will still use the tools of conventional economics and ecology as appropriate. However, the need for new intellectual tools and models may emerge where the coupling of economics and ecology is not possible with the existing tool. So it's more on really integrating our disciplines, working together. Before, when we say economy, only economists can talk about it. But now, we should consider how it impacts the marginalized sector, how it impacts the environment. So we have to listen to environmental scientists. We have to listen to anthropologists, to sociologists. Diba? We have to listen to psychologists when it comes to inclusion, diba? And all of those things. So I think ecological economics tries to really how do you say that, merge or build upon each other's strengths, diba? Complementing each other's strengths so we can move forward and really identify action points on how to achieve sustainable development. So ito yung sinasabi, di ba? Ecological economics versus environmental economics. So environmental economics, it is a sub-discipline of economics. So basically, you apply the standard economic thinking. And what's the standard economic thinking? Is neoclassical liberal economics. So you apply that kind of thinking to the environment. Therefore, growth is God, and the environment should be utilized to support growth. On the other hand, di ba? Kanina, balik tayo sa slide na to. Di ba? So ito, kita nyo? So this is the biosphere, yung circle, yan yung environment, that is the ecology. And we are inside the economic system, the society is inside the biosphere. But, ayun na, ganyan siya sa ecological economics. So, the ecosphere, pasok nasa loob niya yung society, at nasa loob ng society yung economy. But for environmental economics, diba? Ito yung pag-try ng pag-balance. Balance the environment, economy, and society. So the radical thing for ecological economists is actually knowing, understanding, that we are all inside the biosphere. No? So yun siya. So yung three interrelated goals of ecological economics ay una, sustainable scale. You can still scale but it should be sustainable. Pangalawa, fair distribution. We talk about equity. And also efficient allocation. So all these three contribute to human well-being and sustainability. So ilan doon sa comparison, no? For the main goal for environmental economics, it deals with environmental issues and possible changes between economic growth and natural development. But for ecological economics, the goal is sustainability, the unavoidable limit to green growth. The key disciplinary influences for environmental economics ay ito, neoclassical economics, natural resource economics. But for ecological economics, the discipline influences are yung ecosystem science, evolutionary system, and biophysical economics. The relationship between man and nature. For environmental economics, it's strongly anthropocentric. What does it mean? The humans always are at the center of everything. So yung need natin, yung pinakamahalaga. For ecological economics, it's still that, but not really that strong. So slightly anthropocentric. So main threats for environmental economics, the health effects of pollution, the endangered species. But for ecological economics, it's the finite resources, poverty, overpopulation. So ang version of sustainability for environmental economics, later we'll talk about this. No? Weak sustainability, but for ecological economics, it is strong sustainability. So conventional economics doesn't really recognize the importance of scale, the fact that we live on a finite planet, or that the economy as a subsystem cannot grow indefinitely into this larger containing system. There are some biophysical limits there. The mainstream view doesn't recognize those limits or thinks, diba, that technology can solve any resource constraint problem. So itong belief that technology can save us, diba, it's one of the main features of environmental economics, diba? It's not that we can continue to improve the human situation, but we have to recognize that the environment creates certain limits and constraints on that. And we can define a safe operating space within which we can do the best we can. So an economist from Cornell offers a solution of changing the income tax rules so that we only tax consumption and not savings. And we tax consumptions at a very high progressive rate. So you can have much income as you wanted, but if you choose to spend it on luxury goods, then you will be taxed at a very high rate. So if you choose to invest in things that are going to be socially more productive, then you wouldn't be taxed at all. So yun ay isa sa mga example ng policy application ng ecological economics. So still using, di ba? Still using the mechanisms, the structures of the current economy, the current system that we have, but, di ba, ano siya, progressive. So ito, the weak sustainability versus strong sustainability. So this area focuses on how much substitution can be permitted in the definition. For example, itong weak sustainability, as you can see, no, sustainable development ay balance between economy, nature, and society, diba? And then for strong sustainability, lahat tayo, the society and the economy ay nakapaloob sa biosphere, sa nature. So assuming that manufactured and natural capital are close substitutes is weak sustainability. So pwede mong i-substitute yung isang bagay, di ba? Meaning, the cost of environmental deterioration can be compensated by manufactured capital. Meanwhile, in strong sustainability, it suggests that manufactured capital cannot replace vital natural capital, systems, and processes because all human life and activity occurs within the limitations of planet Earth or the biosphere. So, perfect substitution ng natural and man-made capital versus limited substitution. Example, di ba? Yung pag-mine ng coal for electricity, di ba? Versus used car tires made as a carpet which is supposed to be sent off in the landfill. So, minimal yung paggamit ng resources. So, kailangang sulitin, di ba? Hanggang kayang gamitin ang resources, di ba? So, yan, no? Minine yung coal, electricity, tapos yung waste product niya ginamit para maging car tire, pero yung car tire ginamit pa sa carpet, di ba? Dapat sa landfill na siya, pero kinailangang sulitin dahil yung belief na hindi siya pwede or limited lang yung substitution na pwedeng gawin. Meanwhile, di ba, yung sa weak sustainability, technological fix with minor or no changes to lifestyle. So, ito, marami naniniwala na technology can save us. Everything can be solved by technology. But for strong sustainability, diba, fundamental reassessment of values and lifestyle choices. We have to ask ourselves, diba, can technology really save us all? Or maybe just the rich people? We have to reassess our values, diba, our choices, what we eat, what we do for a living, diba, how we go to work. Diba? So it's a fundamental reassessment for that. Weak sustainability is conformist. It is conservative and uncritical approach to sustainable development. And then strong sustainability takes unconventional stances and approaches to criticize, challenge, and change existing beliefs and structures. So again, no, this class, hopefully, we can do that. We have to criticize the current system. We have to challenge the notions, diba? And we have to change existing beliefs and structures so that we can achieve sustainable development, not just for a few people, but for all. So ito yung summary, diba? Main differences between weak and strong sustainability. I discussed this a while ago. And then ito yung isa sa mga favorite example ko ng sinasabing trickle-down economics, neoclassical economics. So how we're told, pag sinabing trickle-down, di ba? So yung sobra daw ay pag napuno yung baso, mag-benefit yung mga nasa baba. But how it actually works is, napuno yung baso, lalaki yung baso, diba? Hanggang palaki ng palaki yung andun sa taas, hindi makayanan ng mga nasa baba, masisira ang masisisi pa yung mga nasa baba. So that is the dominant economic system that we have right now, and we have to challenge, we have to change that kind of system. And ito, defining sustainable development, again, it's part of the reading, no? I think yung ako yung nagsulat, maybe you can read that because this is really an important aspect of this course. You will use this, actually yung yung individual paper, you will use this sustainability component to assess a development project, diba? If it can be considered a sustainable development project or not, or baka nasa middle. So yun. So read on it, diba? yung sustainability worldview, di ba? Is it well-being or evolutionary? So this area focuses on the philosophical assumption underlying the definition. So in sustainability as a well-being, it maintains that that a harmonious existence between man and nature is possible. Yan. So, and focuses on basic requirements for wellness, security, and safety and freedom. But sustainability as an evolutionary process treats definition of sustainability not as stationary and are changing over time. So the recent ones are expected to be more complex and should reflect the knowledge of our time. Yung second, yung sustainability label. So ito, yung diniscuss natin kanina. Is it a weak or a strong sustainability? So this area focuses on how much substitution can be permitted in the definition. So assuming that manufactured and natural capital or close substitute is weak sustainability. So pwede mong i-substitute. So parang okay lang mag-mining because we can use, it's very important for us to use itong laptop, cellphone, galing yun sa pag-mine. But kanina, limited lang yung substitution. So as much as possible, you really make sulit, di ba? Yung paggamit or yung resources na nagamit for that. So ito yung kakibat, kakonect yung circular economy na tinatawag natin. So next, sustainability outcome. This area focuses on the practical outcome of sustainability, influenced by science, but also by political and economic expectations. So in this area, it's either integration ba siya ng economy, society, and environment, or does it try to balance the economy, environment, and society? And the last is sustainability action. Does it support the status quo, diba? Achievable within the present structure? Does it call for reformation? Diba? Fundamental reform is necessary without breaking the system. Or, diba? Do we need to call for transformation? Diba? Radical change needed as the roots for the problems are the very structure themselves. So ito, sustainability components again, no? For me, this is one of the most important parts of this course, and you have to read on it, understand it, and apply it on a development project and assess kung pasok ba or kung saan banda dyan sa sustainability component na yun yung project na yun. So, dito na tayo sa last part. Yan. So, it's just some questions to make you think, diba? Based on the discussion, based on the readings, the modules, no? So what you do, diba kanina din sa discussion board, ay sa discussion natin sa baba yung nag-comment kayo dun sa would you rather. So edit nyo lang, ipasok nyo tong questions, short answers to this question. So yan. How do you define personally what is sustainable development? Do you think there is a way to challenge the existing dominant economic system so we can genuinely achieve sustainable development? Should we move forward to ecocentrism? Is there a fix? Tago muna ako. Yan, is there a fix to anthropocentrism? So dapat ba ang tingin natin ecocentric? Or pwede pa rin namang anthropocentric pero ano lang, slight lang. And then do you think there are critics to ecological economics? Are they justified? So yun, just very short answers on that so that I'll know what you think, diba? If you have clarifications, diba, malaman natin. And yes, so yun, I hope no, it's 1 hour itong recording. So you have 30 minutes 1 hour 30 minutes ang class natin. So you have 30 minutes to do that. Just think, and I hope this introductory course to sustainable development and ecological economics help you understand why this is the framework that we are using, diba, compared to other classes or other frameworks no more on environmental economics. But I realize um, hindi pwedeng yung nag-cause ng problema yung sagot. So we have to challenge, we have to change, transform, act, diba? So I think that's it. So hopefully sa next meeting natin ay sync na live na talaga. And I hope you are safe, you are well, you are healthy. And if you have concerns, if you have questions, just let me know. I'm an email away. I might not answer quickly, but I'll try to respond as soon as possible. So yun, with that, I hope you have a nice weekend ahead and stay safe.